So it is time for the Meraki Quarterly, April 2018 edition. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. This is a really exciting webinar. We always we really look forward to doing this once every quarter because it's a great opportunity for us to share what we've been up to, and there's just so much of it that we know we think it's a valuable webinar, and certainly the attendance that we get for these definitely indicates that that is the case. So thanks very much for coming along and supporting the Meraki Quarterly. So just a couple of sort of background notes here to take into consideration. This is really targeted at people who are established and already very familiar with Meraki. So if you're brand new to Meraki, we do have a whole range of introductory webinars specially designed to get you up to speed. So just hang on in there if you'd like to stay with us. Otherwise, do come back and obviously we can catch you up at a later date. The Meraki Quarterly doesn't really sort of start from introductory. It's all about what we've been doing, so it's assuming that established knowledge. It is a retrospective look back over the last quarter. We want to predominantly focus on what we have announced and new features, solutions, capabilities, products as well that we've announced over the last quarter, and we certainly have plenty of material to cover with you today. So it's more backward-looking than forward-looking. We do have a little bit of an opportunity to talk about some beta features that we're getting out to you, which we want you to try, but this is a roadmap-free zone. So we do reserve the right to ignore any and every question that we get relating to futures and roadmaps. We get them every single time, even though I say this. So I know you're going to type some, but we may well ignore them, so don't take that personally. This is presented by product marketing, but we also have guests always joining us. And in fact, today we have 2 or 3 people joining us from the product management team here at Meraki who will be also joining us with presenting. So please do ask questions. We want to make sure we're helping you get as many questions answered as we can. And we've got people on the Q&A panel monitoring that so that we can try and answer your questions as quickly as we can. So we have a lot to get through. I'm going to hand things straight over to Emily, who's going to take us through what's been happening on Meraki Wireless.
Thank you, Simon. All right. We have a ton to talk about, so I'm going to have to try to keep this relatively quick. We had a massive launch on January 29th and a slew of new hardware and new features. And the theme of that launch was smarter Meraki Wireless. And so that begs the question, what is smart? And as many of you probably know, we already have tons and tons of smart features built into the dashboard. I have cherry-picked a few here for this particular slide. Things like our RF analytics, right, that let you look at AP events for client-serving radios, anywhere from real-time out to in historical data to actually look and see whether or not you can diagnose corresponding interference and usage to particular AP events. Of course, many of you know about our location analytics that let you glean actionable insights from foot traffic behavior. And also, if you didn't realize, we have anomaly detection built into dashboard for usage, which you can look at from either a group of access points or a particular network, or even zoomed out at an organization-wide level. So these are just some cherry-picked features here that we have that are smart. The reality is we have metrics and trend analysis built into every page of the Meraki dashboard. So how do we take it up a notch? What's the next step? So one of the things that we were excited to introduce in our January 29th launch was Meraki Wireless Health. Now, this is a powerful heuristics engine. It's designed to help IT admins troubleshoot more efficiently and faster and to be able to take proactive action based on the analysis and trends that they're seeing. And so what we have here is currently a feature that's in private beta, although I've been talking to our product team and we are targeting a mid to late May general availability release. So please keep your eyes peeled. This should be popping up soon as a free update to all of our wireless customers. What I want to do is actually demo it for you very, very quickly. Again, I have to rush because we've got a lot of updates, but I want to just take you through some of the key features quickly. So let me just dive into our corporate network here because we are, of course, dog fooding this and using it ourselves. And as soon as dashboard comes up, here we go. All right. So to find wireless health, when it does arrive in your network, you're going to come in here and click wireless health. Okay. The very first thing that you're going to see is overview statistics about the state of your wireless network, of course. And you can zoom in or out in terms of slicing and dicing time to see different trends and different analysis. But what this is giving you is right away a holistic view of connection issues across your different networks, top connection issues by access point, top connection issues by client latency. Of course, you can drill down into any of these if you want by clicking on these icons and zoom in and actually see whether or not there is any sort of interesting clustering in terms of problems. Perhaps a whole bunch of access points over in one corner of a building might be giving you some grief. And it gives you connectivity stats around latency and failed connections overall in your network. Now, what you can do is switch over to the connections view. If you are troubleshooting maybe some sluggish wireless connectivity, you can actually come in and see step by step all the different steps that clients have to take to connect to a wireless network, from associating to an access point all the way through successfully passing traffic. And this will give you an overview of heuristics here to see whether or not your network might be having problems with one of these particular stages. And what you can do is then come drill down, again, looking at either the AP level or the client level or even the client device type level, and do things like sort. Perhaps you're looking for the device that has the most failed connections, or you're looking for a device that has perhaps the highest percentage of client devices with problems. And of course, you can click into any single one of these failure stages and drill down and really get nitty-gritty data about the failure reasons at each particular step. And so this is another way to sort of slice and dice your heuristics by SSID, by VLAN, looking at specific access points. So there's a lot of information here. And again, I'm zooming through to try to quickly make way for the rest of the announcements. The last one that I'll just show you is this packet latency page. So we also are able to bucket data passing through a network by traffic type. So some of your mission critical traffic like voice, video versus your best effort traffic, and actually let you know based on threshold levels whether or not this traffic is performing as well as it should, and then giving you the information that you need to drill down and learn more about that. So that, in a very, very quick nutshell, is Meraki Wireless Health. It's very powerful. We think it's going to help you immensely drill down to find the worst performing clients, the worst performing access points, and better understand any sort of sluggishness or latency issues on your network, and be able to actually look at specific connectivity steps as clients associate and get onto a wireless network and troubleshoot those. We also took it another notch in terms of making Meraki Wireless smarter by introducing RF profiles and that include RX-SOP. So what is this? Basically, like any other configuration template, you can go in now and create a template for radio settings that you want to apply to various groups of access points, right? We know that every network is a snowflake. It's unique. You're going to have access points in one location that have to be configured a certain way, and access points in another location that have to be configured differently. This saves you a lot of time and a lot of hassle. It lets you go in and tweak and tune radio settings and then deploy those settings to groups of access points en masse by AP tag. As part of RF profiles, we are enabling the ability to set RX-SOP level, so receiver start of packet. Basically, what this allows you to do is mitigate co-channel interference, because it lets you set threshold levels below which an access point is not going to pay attention to specific signals or specific traffic. So it should help mitigate interference that way. Again, this is a free update that will be showing up in everyone's wireless networks. But smart wireless also means having the right hardware. Now, we know that one-size coverage, the sort of omnidirectional coverage that we have for all of our indoor access points, doesn't necessarily suit all scenarios. And so we've been hearing a lot of requests for more configurable types of antenna on these models. We also know that sometimes you're not looking for anything more than basic outdoor coverage that you can get up and running really rapidly. You don't necessarily want to mess with dealing with external antennas on those models. And then we also know that sometimes you just want an entry-level AP, right? You're looking for basic wireless. You're looking for coverage, not capacity. And so we've heard you all this time. And what we've done is now we've created an AP for all of these occasions. And we've introduced 4 new models, and you see them here. Up at the top, the MR53E and the MR42E. These are indoor access points that take external antenna. And I'll talk about the antenna just in a moment in the next slide. But these are awesome. Everything from the 4x4, 4-stream multi-user MIMO 11AC Wave 2 MR53E to the 3x3 with 3 streams multi-user MIMO MR42E. These are great. If you have to basically deal with a challenging RF situation, maybe you have really high ceilings, maybe you want to project coverage down a long hallway, you need to fine-tune your coverage in a way that the omnidirectional antennas in our other APs haven't been best suited for. These are the access points for you. On the flip side, down below, we're introducing the MR20 and the MR70. Now, these are, the MR20 is an indoor access point. It's 2x2. Everything is 11AC Wave 2, but the MR20 is 2x2 with 2 streams. It is there for basic coverage, very low density deployments. One thing to note about the MR20 is it does not have that third dedicated radio for scanning. It does not have a Bluetooth radio either, so keep that in mind. And the MR70 is our outdoor AP for basic coverage. So again, extremely easy to set up. If you've noticed, it does not take external antennas, so you just deploy it and go, but it is IP67 rated and ruggedized for vibration and moisture and things like that. And it also does not include the Bluetooth radio or the scanning radio. So keep those in mind. They are there for entry-level sort of basic coverage scenarios. And what I want to do just to wrap up is talk about the antennas that we have created for the MR53E and the MR42E. We have antennas for every occasion too. So here you go. You can see these, everything from dipoles to down tilt panel omnis, wide patch, narrow patch. The cool thing about these antennas and the APs, a couple things. The first is that we do have slots for scanning radio antennas. So your coverage area for your security scanning and your auto RF will basically equal the coverage of your wireless for these new APs. And the other thing is that most of these antennas are what we call smart antennas. So what's amazing is that the access point, the MR53E and the MR42E, can actually auto-detect the antenna and get it configured automatically. So you save a lot of time and hassle there. And so in a crazy rapid nutshell, that is all the announcements that we have from January. So if you have any questions, do type those into your Q&A box, and I will try to answer those. But what I want to do is now pass it off to Melissa.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. So we're going to go over some quick updates with Systems Manager, our endpoint management solution here. The first thing I want to talk about is this recent recognition we received. This is through the Gartner Peer Insights Customer's Choice platform. And if folks aren't familiar with this is a free platform for customers to vet solutions in a number of different industries and categories. We received recognition as one of 3 endpoint management solutions to receive this kind of customer's choice distinction. And we definitely encourage people to take a look and see what customers are saying about the product. Again, it's totally free. You don't have to be a Gartner subscriber or Gartner customer to take a look at this. The most major feature set release we've seen in the last quarter has been around Chrome OS native features for particularly enterprise users at launch. So all of these features are basically native Chrome tools built into dashboard to enable things like provisioning and fleet management. A lot of the workflow and adjustments that you see in the Google console are now available in Systems Manager, and that really provides a single pane of glass for managing Chrome OS devices alongside other devices within Systems Manager. We actually go over a lot of the Chrome OS features in a recent feature update webinar that we recently had and posted to our Meraki YouTube channel, so that is available to watch. And that goes over not just Chrome OS enterprise features, but as well as some major UI changes, particularly on our apps page, and some updates for macOS, Android, and of course Chrome OS devices. So definitely recommend folks check that out to take a look at more of the granular feature updates for Systems Manager. Some other recent additions or recent changes to Systems Manager, we've recently opened up our trial support program to all customers who have never purchased Systems Manager. And the changes here is we're offering full support for Systems Manager trials, including a dedicated subject matter expert for assistance and onboarding help. If you are interested in these trials, there's no commitment required, and it does give access to a full, complete feature set for Systems Manager. So reach out to a Meraki sales rep to get started, or go ahead and select the Contact Us form on our website to get in touch with someone. And then I definitely wanted to make folks aware of our growing Systems Manager community. So we have a Meraki community that spans all of our Meraki portfolio, all of our Meraki products. Our endpoint management community is thriving, and wanted to make sure folks are aware that this is a great resource to see what your peers are doing with Systems Manager, post questions, read some tips and tricks, and look at some tutorials folks are posting, as well as to learn about some of our key beta programs and more granular feature releases. We regularly post on there as well. Lastly, a couple of upcoming events to find us at. We'll be at RSA next week in San Francisco. That's April 17th through the 19th. And ISTE, an education event in Chicago this June, the 25th through the 27th. So if you want to talk more about Systems Manager or anything Meraki, we'll have a presence at both of these events. Next up, we're going to go to Matt to talk about some MV updates.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Marson. So as we're diving into the cameras, our current MV security camera lineup is as such. You're probably familiar with already our MV21 and 71 offering and all of the neat features that come along with that. If you're not, I would recommend pivoting after this and taking a quick look at some of our webinars that we've already had done previously to discuss some of the basic feature sets. Because what I'm going to highlight today is going to be our latest and greatest, the MV12. So the MV12 is an indoor model. And it's important to note that for all of this family of products, we process and store video on the edge with up to 256 gigs of solid-state storage. That's what ultimately allows for us to be architecturally and fundamentally different from all of our competition out there. But without further ado, introducing the MV12. So, as we're looking at this guy, obviously small, compact form factor. There are 3 SKUs, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But ultimately, what it brings to the table is now high definition, 1080p, recording quality, microphone that's embedded inside of the unit itself. It is wireless capable, but the most 2 important things are the Qualcomm Snapdragon processor and the advanced onboard analytics and machine learning that comes with it. Before we get to that stage, I just want to quickly talk about the models. So for the MV12, we've got the MV12N, W, and WE. The WE is just more of an economy version in that it is the W, but with half of the storage, so 128 gigabytes. However, for the N and the W, you can think of them as a narrow as well as a wide option. These are fixed focal length cameras, so you could deploy a wide angle camera for coverage of an entire room, whereas an MV12 you might want to fixate on, say, a doorway or a hallway. Moving past this, one of the cool features that I'd mentioned before about the onboard analytics and machine learning enables us to now do advanced analytics that do object detection as people. We are classifying objects as people on the fly, and we're then able to bring in meaningful heuristics inside of your network and previous insights that were attainable via other methods or wholly not whatsoever, are now available to you very easily and efficiently inside of Dashboard. But rather than talk about it, I'd rather just show you here. I'm going to click into our cameras, and while we wait for this to load, what I'm going to show you is our camera list. We'll see that there's MV12s, MV21s, and MV71s that are in this list. I'm going to pull in the 4th floor camera stairwell, which is an MV12W, or MV12N, excuse me, and we're going to take a look at the actual people detection, as well as some of the cool new features that we can do in terms of getting an understanding of how people are moving within our environment, because that's ultimately what we're driving toward here. So as I click into the fourth floor staircase, as we'd expect, we're seeing that it's working. It's trying to see whether or not I am layer 2, layer 3 accessible, and ultimately it's proxying this cloud stream from our cloud and ultimately to this browser. What I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to just dive into, by using our natural language processor, say just noon yesterday. And I'll just quickly do a motion search for maybe a representative sample, make sure that we get a good audience walking through. And I'm leveraging our intelligent motion search. We do full frame motion processing, always on the edge, which allows me to then drag and drop a box at any point in time. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so I get maybe more granular results. And let's see here. We've got area of region of interest is 97%. So let's go ahead and click into this clip and see what it brings us. And while this is loading, what it allows me to do is it allows me to very quickly and effectively find an event within that area of interest, right, and then move forward. So what I can do now is I can actually just show people. Now, this is a historical view of what the camera is actually determining as a person live as it's recording and processing this data, right? So as we think about this, drawing yellow boxes around these persons is more a visual aid for an installer or for an integrator to understand exactly where people counting is being detected. But what's more practical is diving then into the analytics tab. And what we'll see here is that for this same camera, if I dive back again to yesterday, and I then look at the entirety of, say, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., we immediately are presented with the number of entrances that have occurred over this period of time within this day. And as we expect, being that we're in a busy San Francisco office, the busiest time of day is going to be around noontime, where people are going to be fluttering about for the staircase, going upstairs, downstairs, coming downstairs for lunch. We also then see the most utilized hour, the estimated peak occupancy inside of the scene, as well as the total entrances that we've observed throughout this specific time period. If I wanted to expand this outward, I could do so. And I could then see more or less time and get more and less granular. So one of the other things that I can do with this is I can actually click directly into this time, and I can then click into, say, one of the tallest bars, and I'm instantly then presented with that actual clip from that minute-wise detection of persons within the scene. So what we're seeing now is what the camera saw, right? I'm going to speed this up briefly, and we'll see that as it's going through, it's actually detecting individuals as they're coming upward and downward of a scene. Now, you pan this out to practical applications, right? This can be an understanding of how individuals are both maneuvering through an environment. It could be positioned over, say, a busy thoroughfare or even an ingress or egress, point of egress, to understand and develop more meaningful heuristics for people counting. How many people are coming inside of my store? Versus, how many people are perhaps congregating around a particular location within my environment. If there is a state of emergency, do one of my cameras have a recent detection of a person within my environment that I could see from this analytics tab? There's a lot of information that we both already have available to us at our fingertips, as well as the ability to now enhance this model over time to tell us more and more information that we never actually have to go and view video. So this is a very powerful tool. One of the other quick things I want to highlight before passing it off is, as we dive into settings, I'd mentioned to you a couple of other cool features, but there's a few that I hadn't. So with the MV12, we also now have high dynamic range. So if I were to enable this, as we can see for this scene, this is actually rather apt. I'm in a non-edit mode, so I can't actually enable this guy. But if I were able to enable high dynamic range, we would see that this white area where the sunlight's coming in and it's blowing out that portion of the image, it would actually reconcile that, and we'd be able to see nice definition from end to end within this scene. As I dive over to quality and retention, we can also then see the video resolution. I now have the selection of not only 720p, but 1080p at various bit rates and frames per second. If I were to want to enable recording of audio, I can do that simply here. And of course, all of the other features that you would come to expect, and, including the estimated retention with motion-based enabled or disabled, are all there. One of the last highlights that I wanted to quickly mention is our ability to now do motion alerts. So with that same full frame motion processing and indexing, what we can now do is we can select to send motion alerts from a specific camera, either always or on a schedule. So a schedule might be if I wanted to know that people are moving within my environment after hours from, say, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. But outside of that, don't let me know every time. I can also set a minimum or maximum threshold for sensitivity. And then if I really want to get granular, I can set an area of interest by, again, just dragging and dropping. Or I can say disabled for area of interest, and just if anything happens within this camera's field of view, let me know. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Victor.
Thanks, Matt. So for the MS product, we want to go over a new product release, specifically the MS 12048FP, some of the firmware improvements we've included in our new MS10 firmware, as well as talking about customer feedback and how we're eliciting that and how we're listening to our customers today. But to start off, for those who have been keeping in touch with us and have seen the MS120 launch back in September of 2017. We did not launch it with a 740-watt full power switch, but that is available today. So key features on the MS120, layer 2, general layer 2 access switch with 48 1 gig copper ports, as well as 4 1 gig SOP uplinks. Again, 740 watts for that full power switch with full PoE plus support. Now, with that being said, just to show our full lineup today, specifically here on the access switching side with our MS120s being our base layer 2 switch, and then moving up to our MS210s and MS225 for our layer 2 stackable switches. For our higher end access and aggregation, we have our 250 also stackable, our 350 really that workhorse access switch for those high density, those high availability and require resiliency in the network. The 350 is definitely a great option there as well. And then going to our aggregation, we have our MS410 1 gig SOP aggregation switch, and then the 425 being our 10 gig SOP aggregation switch there. Now, in terms of the MS10 firmware upgrade, there's a lot of improvements that we've made on our new MS10 firmware, specifically on the area of increased resiliency and providing more protection for your network. Some of the features listed here, not limited to, but enhanced storm control, where we can limit the effects of layer 2 broadcast storms right at the port level. UDLD to prevent those loops caused by possibly bad cables, unidirectional links, loop guard, and further enhancement on that spanning tree side to protect and block any ports that can cause those loops. And then dynamic ARP inspection, so making sure that there is no ARP poisoning in your network, so there's no MAC spoofing and stuff like that to increase that resiliency throughout your network. In addition, we also launched more features on the MS10 side, specifically on that wired security. So multi-host authentication, enhancing that .1x and MAC authentication to allow a single host to authenticate on one shared port. So, for example, possibly an access point or a switch on someone's desk that can allow access for other clients. We have that feature today, as well as multi-authentication. Kind of confusing because the names are so similar, but also an enhancement on the .1x and MAC authentication side, where we can now authenticate each individual host on a shared port, so providing those two options there. We've also included eCMP for OSPF, so load balancing all that traffic in your OSPF network for greater efficiency, as well as investing in that in the future with IPv6 ACL. So adding that IPv6 ACL on that switch. Obviously, right now we do switch that traffic, but now we can also protect your network and provide some extra rules on the IPv6 side. So MS10 is currently in beta, and this is actually a firmware you can upgrade your switches to today. Just from our new firmware upgrade page that we launched last year. Really, you can see the betas for all our products as well as the firmware available to you. Just go to Organization Firmware Upgrades, and you can upgrade your network to our latest beta to use all those features as well as hopefully protect your network there with the extra resiliency we've included in our MS10 release. Now, moving on to a bit of customer feedback. I think I speak to all our products here today that we definitely listen to our customers, but specifically on the Switch side, we've really put the effort into looking at those dashboard wishes. So if you do have any feature requests, definitely at the bottom right-hand corner of the dashboard, any dashboard page, you should see a Make a Wish box where you could make wishes. Those wishes get sent to us, and we read them every week to make sure that we cover all the features that our customers want. We've recently also administered a Switch survey to your customers so that we can get more feedback as to the real-world experience and how we can improve our product. Definitely look out for some improvements on our switching side. We're definitely listening to feedback that way as well. And then our Meraki community page. There are a lot of Meraki users today on our community page. It's a great and active community that really helps each other in terms of making sure that if you have any questions that can be easily answered. Obviously, there will be a lot of there are a lot of current users as well as a lot of if you have any questions, you can ask those there. We also have our employees answering questions there as well. So very active community page. Definitely recommend everyone get involved there. So that's it for the MS updates. I'm going to pass it over to Mitch for our MX side.
Thank you, Victor, for sharing all the exciting new features coming to Switch. However, now we're going to talk about my favorite product, the MX. And we're going to focus today on some of our routing capabilities and what enhancements and new features are coming to the MX platform. And what are we doing in terms of routing? Well, one focus that we're really putting a lot of engineering resources towards is BGP. And the main use case that we're building this for is active-active DC design. We want to offer our customers three things when they choose to route with us: redundancy, symmetry, and load balancing. And the easiest way for us to implement that is BGP. Now, we offer load balancing across multiple data centers through the use of templates, and we can ensure symmetry and rule out asymmetric routing with the AS prepending. That's done automatically through the use of templates. It's very easy. We want to keep it Merakified with BGP. Now, with new capabilities, new features, and something as robust as BGP that is also dangerous, we've also enhanced a few features and capabilities with our BGP implementation as a whole. If you look on the right here, you can see we have route filtering, and we added two things. We wanted to give our customers a way to protect themselves outbound as well as inbound. And the way we protect our customers outbound is that we are always going to ensure that we are a stub AS. We're not going to become transit between the two data centers. That's not what this was developed for. So if you can see the little checkbox in there for outbound filtering, it's as simple as that to protect your network. Now, that's outbound. Inbound is something we wanted to make simple and also take into consideration that V6 is in the roadmap for us. So things like prefix lists would have to go through a second development cycle. So we went with max prefix limits. Moving over to the right here, we have enhanced our route table to include not just BGP learn routes, but also the path attributes associated with each route. You can see the little connectivity bar. That's where we track the next hop. We make it very easy to see when you lose a route. And on the bottom here, we added some verbose logging for BGP. Now, what I mean by verbose logging is that before we tear down or any BGP speaker tears down the session, we're going to send a message saying, hey, we took down the session because we're doing X, Y, and Z. Here, with the verbose logging, we offer time-stamped logs of when we tear down the session or when our neighbor tears down the session. It makes it very easy for troubleshooting. Now, we're also working on peering visibility and showing all BGP speakers over AutoVPN. Currently, there's no UI for it. The firmware portion's done, and engineering's still working on making a nice little easy to display BGP information. Now, that's with the head end and really exchanging routes dynamically with your data center. With routing, the next phase that we're going to go into is we're going to try and become a true CPE device. We want to give customers the option to deploy hybrid deployments where you have WAN 1, your primary internet connection just goes to your normal service provider, and your secondary internet connection can go directly to an MPLS VPN, a Layer 3 VPN, Express Route, anything that can connect you via an MPLS connection, Now, this is still currently in the development process. However, all the features I'm talking about today, everything you see on the slide, is available in wired 15.7 and up, and you're going to have to call into support to actually get yourself upgraded to that, or speak with your SE or sales rep. That's everything I had to discuss with BGP. Now I'm going to hand it off to Simon, who's going to talk about MI.
Thanks, Mitch. We've had some very exciting updates here. This Mac that we're speaking to you from today is burning up. It's like the fan is going crazy. So hopefully this is all keeping nice and up to date. It looks like it's working well on the WebEx. So we have one more product to talk to you about today, and it is actually quite exciting, and this will make Mitch happy as well, because as you will see, this has definitely a relationship to our MX product line as well. And it's something that we announced back at the beginning of February. We're calling it Meraki Insight. So let's have a look at that. So Emily earlier on talked about Meraki Wireless Health and how we are using that to help improve monitoring of both connectivity and ongoing performance of wireless clients in the network. But we also want to look beyond just the Wi-Fi. That's only the first step. Most of the time nowadays, we're accessing applications which are hosted remotely. Very common for that to be the case. Think about what's on your phone. Everything is coming from some kind of cloud service or a server that is remote to wherever you are sitting. And that means there are additional elements that we need to consider if you're having problems with performance on that application. And I'm particularly thinking here about the kind of things that make you raise a ticket with IT saying, hey, the network's slow, I'm having problems with connectivity today. We want to try and help the IT team to identify and troubleshoot those problems more rapidly than they've been able to do in the past. And one of the great new benefits that we're bringing along now with both Wireless Health and also Meraki Insight is this ability to dig deeper and understand really where are my problems actually emanating from. Because the end user just sees the end result of that, but it could be a result of almost any step between that end user and the server that is hosting their application. So with Meraki Insight, we're really turning our attention to some of the wired network, both on the LAN side, but also out onto the wide area network as well. So whether you're using MPLS or you're using VPN over internet, whatever it is, across the wide area, we are enabled now to look at both the network layer and the application layer for those to help understand where we may be seeing problems. So if you look at the diagram on the right-hand side, this is a screen capture from the Meraki dashboard. What we're seeing here is a performance score for each of our critical web-based applications. And the score is built up out of that network layer performance and the application layer performance. So we're looking at how well the server is responding. Is the server having a bad day today, as well as just what's happening on the wide area network? So we can really pinpoint wherever these problems happen to lie. So just zoom in on that a little bit. If we look at this example here, we've got a couple of applications that are causing us difficulty. We've got low performance scores. No rocket science here. This is immediately obvious that we have problems we need to go and identify. And if we click into those a little bit deeper into that performance score, then we very quickly start to understand where that problem lies. Now, you imagine that these are retailers that we're looking at here. Something like the Square point of sale system. This is you've probably seen it. This is the little plug-in thing you put into your phone, and you've got immediately a way of taking payments from your customers. Very popular in pop-up coffee shops here in San Francisco, for example. And, if you are relying on that technology and you have a problem with its performance, you're going to have a really bad day in terms of takings and retailing. So we need to be able to fix this fast, and this is where Meraki Insight can really start to pay for itself pretty quickly. So when we dig deeper, we can see a little bit more detailed information around various different components. So the first one in this list here is good put. This was a new term to me. I've been in networking for a very long time, an embarrassingly long time, and I'd never heard the term good put before. So I had to go and look that one up. Essentially, if you strip away all the kind of headers and extraneous information around the true payload of your data, that's what you're really interested in monitoring, and that's more or less what good put is giving to you there. It's a little more complex than that, but too long to explain, so do go and have a look at that if it's new to you as well. What we can see here very clearly with this vertical line that appears in the dashboard, it lines up a point in time and helps us see that we suddenly saw a drop-off in good put. Lo and behold, if we track our eyes down to the WAN loss line, we can see that we suddenly saw a big peak in loss of packets at that same point in time. So it's a fairly safe correlation to make here to say that there's probably going to be a link. It's probably a WAN problem. So pick up the phone to the ISP and let's get that problem resolved as quickly as we can. All of this can happen within a matter of minutes. And I want you to think about how that compares with how you would do this today. In many cases, you're going to be reliant on trawling through pages of event logs. You might be using a syslog server or something like that. Either which way, it's going to be more laborious, it's going to be more manual than we are now making it with tools like Health and Meraki Insight. So these are significant steps forward in terms of providing rapid, fast IT service to your customers. So we really think this is going to apply to pretty much all of you out there who are running networks and trying to keep those running optimally for your IT departments and your customers. If you look through the think about how your mission critical applications rely increasingly on services that are migrating to a SaaS-based approach, sitting in services like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure. If you're moving out to those, you need to be able to maintain good quality. It was easy to do this in the past. We typically had our data centers on site, so we just had a quick LAN hop to take care of. Now we've got more elements. We need to understand them well. That's what we're here to help you cover here. So Meraki Insight relies on a collector. We're using deep packet inspection to build up a picture of what is going on over a period of time. What you were looking at on previous slides was the culmination of ongoing monitoring, and obviously that takes some infrastructure. So this is a very importantly worded title on this slide. We say that this is the first collector for Meraki Insight, and it's the Meraki MX. I can see Mitch is smiling. So he's excited about that prospect. But really want to emphasize this fact. We're simply using a very powerful box, and I'm sure you all already know just how much capability the MX has on board. And we're using some of its power to help us with collecting this kind of data. But it's really just an abstracted concept, having a collector that pulls this information in so that we can display it on the Meraki dashboard. And we do know that we've got a lot of customers out there who are using, for example, just Meraki Wireless or maybe just Meraki MV. Maybe they want to start moving in this direction and want to have a collector that can help them with Insight as well. So that's something that we're exploring. We're waiting for your feedback on that to tell us how you would like us to proceed with that. Right now, you have an option available that you can get started with. So if you're using MX, you can start trialing this today and see if it's going to be of value in your own operation. So there is a licensing setup for Meraki Insight, and it really just depends on the type of MX model that you're using. There's a different capacity level. This really relates to the sheer volume of data, not only that we need to be able to process, but also that Meraki Cloud needs to be able to maintain on your behalf so that you can pull on that data for looking at Insight over a period of time. So you just pick the appropriate license and you are good to go. The last slide here for Meraki Insight is just to show you this end-to-end story that we're really proud of, and it's a big part of our story in 2018. And that is going all the way from the endpoint, the managed endpoint in particular with Systems Manager, but really any endpoint that we're using on our network through Wireless Health, helping us to troubleshoot connectivity and also performance when we're on the Wi-Fi. And then through the existing, let's not forget these, the existing extensive troubleshooting tools that we already have built into the Meraki dashboard that have been setting us apart for over a decade now. And now we're building on those with Meraki Insight, which takes us out into this new troubleshooting realm that we haven't dealt with before, looking at the WAN and looking at the servers on the other end. So a fantastic story from Meraki. It just gets more and more valuable as the years tick by. All right, so that brings us to the end of our presentations today. And goodness me, we've gone through 50 minutes. The time flies super fast on the quarterly. We've got a few minutes for questions here. So what I'm going to do is just line these up. I've got a few that I'm going to just scroll through. So if you bear with me, we've done our best to keep on top of the questions as they've been coming in. But what I'll do is just share some of these with you before we wrap things up. First thing I want to say, we had a question that came in about IPv6, and both Vic and Mitch also touched on IPv6, and I can tell you that two of us have IPv6 stickers on our laptops. If that is an indication of what our intentions are and how serious we are about this very important step forward in the world of IP networking, I don't know what is. So with that, let's just move on through the questions here and see what we have to share with you. Okay, so we have a question here about wireless health, and it's asking whether that is available at this point in time. I want to really stress today that both wireless health and Meraki Insight are ready and available for you to go and play with. The great news here in the case of wireless health is that it's going to be appearing right there in the dashboard. So you just need to go along to our support team to get set up with that, and we'll have that working for you as soon as we can. In the case of Meraki Insight, that is also in a state where we're available to trial that at this point. So do please, again, reach out to support so we can get you set up there. And there's actually a more broad question here about how you opt into beta features. There is a setting in the dashboard that enables you to get early access into beta features that we are adding to our portfolio. The other option is what I just explained to you a moment ago, which is always to reach out to support. Do keep in mind that if you're using any kind of Meraki product, you have 24/7 access to our support team, and they are ready to help you with anything relating to the Meraki portfolio. So we want to get those products into your hands at the earliest possible opportunity. So Emily talked about the MR20 earlier on, and we had a question came in about whether that does mesh networking. It does have that capability, but I would stress that this is not a product that's designed for large-scale deployments. You really shouldn't be thinking of this as in any kind of replacement to the existing MR product line that we have in place. It's really targeted very much at those very small deployments, just 2 or 3 access points, potentially SOHO or SMB deployments. So if you're looking for parity of features, you simply won't find that with that product line. It's really focused at the volume market. So do keep that in mind. The MR30 and MR33 is where things get started with the proper enterprise portfolio, still very reasonably priced access points. So if you are looking at a sensibly priced deployment for your Wi-Fi, I would definitely take a look at that model. And we have, of course, all of these on our website so you can peruse at your leisure. We had a question here about what the best range antenna is. So Emily talked about some of the new antennas that we're launching here, and it's obviously very exciting that we now have indoor APs with modular antennas plugged into that as well. And that is very important, that point about modularity, because we do allow our customers to plug third-party antennas into the APs so that they can provide really customized solutions. So it's rather difficult for us to answer that question about best range. Probably best to start from the other end and look at the antennas and look at the deployment scenario that you're looking to cover to make sure that you'll get the distance that you're looking for there. But you have a lot of choice now, both for external APs and now internal APs as well. Okay, so just to reiterate as well on those antennas, the modular ones that Emily talked about, one of the key advantages and a really nice piece of Meraki technology here is our ability to auto-detect those antennas. That means that we're going to be able to help you set things up way more quickly when you're experimenting, when you're trying different environments to make sure that you get those set up optimally as quickly as possible. It's really fun seeing some of the roadmap style questions, some of which come up every single quarter, and I can tell you that we hear all of these, so that we do listen to the feedback that you all give us. We talked about this during the quarterly, of course. Don't forget that Make-A-Wish box. It's still in the bottom right-hand corner of every single dashboard page. And every single product team here is very keen to make sure that we're hearing that feedback. We can't always deliver the features you want to see as quickly as you would like to see them. We have a very large market to try and address here, but we definitely are listening, I assure you of that. On Systems Manager, we had a question came in around Chrome OS management. And so the good news there is that that was actually launched for enterprise users now. So really nice step forward and additional capability around Windows 10 as well. So Melissa went through some of that. If you did miss any of the details there, don't forget that we do record all of these webinars, so you'll be able to go back and check up on those at a later date. Okay, we had a question came in about export of video. So Matt obviously talked about how we can access and showed how we can access video footage, how we can do so intelligently as well. So with using tools like motion search and motion alerting, we can get directly to what it is that we want to see. If we do have video footage that we need to offload and save, maybe to send to law enforcement if something's gone missing, obviously you have the option to do that built right into the tool. So you can export your video directly to your own local storage and then use that as you see fit. Okay, so there's a question here around how we could potentially make use of the Bluetooth beacons and some of the location capabilities that we have built in on the wireless side. This is actually a really exciting part of what we do with Meraki Wireless, because as well as providing simple coverage to users, which we really have nailed by this point, what we're really interested in doing is seeing what else we can do with wireless, how we can add value. So retailers, for example, absolutely love the ability to be able to track devices, to be able to really gain better insight into where users are within a physical space so they can make sure that their layouts are optimized. And we're building software tools on top of this using Meraki APIs, which you can take advantage of to build really customized solutions for your customers. So I would definitely recommend that you head over to a new website that we're starting to really build out at this point called Meraki.io. So Meraki.io. Make a note of that and go take a look at it if you haven't seen it already, because this is a brave new world for Meraki. It's enabling us to communicate to our customers and partners really more detail around the APIs and some of the custom solutions that are being built on top of those to really enhance the value of your Meraki deployment. A couple of questions about BGP here. I think Mitch did a fantastic job on that. So it is ready for you to try again in beta. So if you want to get going with that, do please reach out to our support teams. I've got a question here, an interesting one here about integration with other Cisco products. I do want to stress that we already have some very significant integrations with Cisco technologies. Immediate ones that come to mind, we have some fantastic solutions for Systems Manager when it comes to integration with policy engines using Cisco ICE. We also have a lot of security technologies integrated into the MX platform, which I think has significantly enhanced the value of that particular product line. So things like, I'm thinking about SourceFire here, I'm thinking about ThreatGrid, I'm thinking about advanced malware protection. It's a pretty long list. We're actually going to be at the RSA show here in San Francisco next week, so we'll be covering a lot of those security topics. If you are in the vicinity or if you're coming to that show, do come along and say hello to us there. We'd love to talk to you a little bit more about those. Okay, there's really more questions than I can get through the time we have available here. I just want to re-stress again, because the questions come in multiple times during the time that we're presenting. Yes, we do record these, and yes, they will be up on our YouTube channel probably before the end of this week. So do go and check that out if you'd like to see more. We have reached the top of the hour. It's been another frenetic Meraki Quarterly. We love having you guys join us for these. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do so. And we will be back just 3 months from now, and I can guarantee you we will have more exciting stuff to share with you. From everybody here in the room, it's a big crowd today. Thank you very much again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.